You were banged up abroad in Spain. You were charged with drug trafficking. You get mixed up with some serious people, and you were sentenced to 6.5 years.
When you're locked up, they do it during siesta, and the guy's like, "You're going to Carabanchel," and I'm like, "Ah." That's like the bogey, man. That's like Alcatraz.
It's even the name.
You'd be sitting at your table, playing a game of chess, and this body would come down and smack on the floor. You're like, "Ah." And you're not shouting at him, obviously, saying, "I go on and watch what you're doing, we're playing here." I'd been stabbed, but what I'd been stabbed with wasn't a knife. It was a thing called a pincho. There's rats everywhere, so they've did this thing in rat excrement. They then take it and put human excrement on top of it, and this went into my insides.
The legend himself, Allan McCarthy, welcome to the show.
Glad to be here, Jim. Thanks for inviting me.
It's an honour to have you on, mate. A bit of a legend, as I said. You were banged up abroad in Spain. You were charged with drug trafficking. You get mixed up with some serious people, and you were sentenced to 6.5 years.
That's
and
right.
Spent your time in three different prisons.
And you forgot the fine.
The 25 million.
65 million.
65 million there, we'll get it right.
65 million fine.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And before we start, when you were up getting your fine, what was the word you used for the judge?
Aye, not content at being facing this at the tender age of 23 or 24. I thought it was a smart aleck. Now, I couldn't tell this story before because nobody would believe me, but it's in 23 million Spanish newspapers. They pulled out the court transcripts. The judge has given me the offer of doing an extra 6 months on top of the 6.5 years or pay 65 million. So without an audience, nobody's going to see it. None of my mates are there. I've turned around to the judge in fluent Spanish and said, "Your Honour, with due respect, instead of me giving you 65 million and getting 6 months taken off, I'm happy to do an extra year if you give me 65 million. At which point, the judges apparently went purple. The whole courts went into uproar. He's with his wee hammer, going order in court in Spanish. Everybody's chaos. Sounds great, but the true story of that, afterwards I get taken down to the holding cells and the guards there explained just how funny they thought I was. And if that wasn't enough, I promptly get put in the armed van going back to the prison for a 2-hour drive. They explained how funny I was for 2 hours, 4 of them. And then every gate that I went through in the prison when I got back told me how funny I was. I couldn't walk for a month, you know what I mean? It was like a nightmare.
But that's what I'm saying. So we know you like to tell a story. You can talk for hours, so can I. So it's going to be fascinating, my friend.
I'm looking forward to it.
But before we get right into this incredible story, if you can speak me through what you've got going on in the now and the present.
In the present, well, we've just been offered recently, because the story came out about a year or so ago in Spain, what's happened is recently things have came to the surface again. Not that they were ever hidden, but obviously it's attracted things. And shortly before Christmas, I got asked by one of the old guards, one of the psychologists who's still in the prison service. He's now a director or something like that. And he got in touch asking me would I play in February. This was just before Christmas. I went, no, I can't do February. But every year they have us Amnesty International week for the prisoners, you know, with the sports events and all that. And they want me to go back and play the actual prison where I was 30 years ago when the whole thing happened. And that's looking, well, it's organised. It's just a case of what format it's going to take. Spanish radios want to do it. There's people want to come like yourself, so offered to come and document it and things like that. And then we're opening that. The book that you've got there, that just came out recently. That's Brian Anderson's new book. That's Faces of the Underworld 2. And I'm actually in it. You know, it's a Brian's journey through the underworld.
We'll plug it the now. It's, there's so many characters in this, but we'll only name you the now.
Aye.
So this will be in the description of this video, so
you
anybody
can get it on your Amazon thing or
they
whatever.
Can click on the link and they'll get a copy of that. But
Aye.
it's right interesting. As I said, some right good characters in there.
Oh, there's every gangster that MB's ever heard of is in there. You know, Brian's been a crime reporter and crime photographer for all the major newspapers for years. But the good thing as well, he's also into his music, and he's done things like Bon Jovi and Prince. He took the last photograph of Amy Winehouse. So that's helping me on my journey, because Brian's got sort of music contacts, because obviously my story would just be somebody else that got bummed up abroad for drugs. Yeah, there's plenty of them. I've seen Midnight Express, you know what I mean? Bye, right, great. You know, people
we know
have had
there's
longer.
more behind that, and we're just going to get right into it right now. So I'm going to take you back, right? I'm not going to take you way back into your early childhood in Glasgow and that. I want to start at around about 1988 and why you went to Spain and what was your intentions.
Right, I mean, I was born in Barhead, or as you call it, Barhead, but I never really felt identified with that. You know, I got out there, went as a student, and I was staying up the Red Road flats in Glasgow. Now I was running the Students' Union. I was like the entertainments manager because I always had played in bands, but I didn't think I was good enough at it. It's like we were talking about, we've got low self-esteem and big egos, but I always thought, no, he's a better guitarist, you know. So instead of playing in the bands, I was booking the bands and all that. And through that, by pure accident, there was a club in Glasgow called Bennett's, the gay club, and it had shut down. Something had happened, and they had to have a venue for Saturday night. So the Students' Union, Glasgow Tech, which is now Caledonian Uni, we didn't run in on Saturday night. So all that crowd came up. Now, it's the 1980s. People are very prejudiced. They've got their own opinions. None of the guys wanted to work. So me and my flatmate worked it. We soon discovered that it was all the dolly birds, it was all the models, all the club owners, all the hairdressers, even all the other doormen that were going to that because they didn't get any grief. So through that, people, I mean, I'm reasonably well spoken, so I wasn't your archetypal doorman. And when new clubs were opening up, they were like, do you fancy coming up and working on the door here? So instead of getting a fiver a night, I'm getting 25 quid a night, then 50 quid a night for standing on. I did, first one I think I did was the Cotton Club with Mike Calder, then I did Savoy and all that. And then what happened, there was the older generation will remember this, there was a club opened in Glasgow called the Mardi Gras, and I worked there for day one. And like any club, when they open up, there's always building never opens when it opens. So I'd given up my job, I think, in the Cotton Club, you know, on the weekends down there. And the same people owned the warehouse, and the warehouse was like the busiest club in Glasgow, but it wasn't upmarket at that point. It had its day, but the Sunday night in the warehouse was chaos. There's a couple of thousand people come in there. So I got well grounded, you know, working in the warehouse and all that, you know, about knowing who was who. So when the Mardi Gras opened up a few weeks after, I'm on the door and all that. And like, it was a gradual progression because we knew everybody was everybody, and like the Mardi Gras never opened on a Sunday night because why would they compete? They've got the busiest club next door. And somebody said, why don't you just sell tickets and that open up? Aye, great. We'll have a club night. Now, people are familiar with club nights and they see all the raves and that. This is 20 years before that. Nobody had a club night in Glasgow. But because I had the experience of running the clubs with the Students' Union and doing it, making money for them, we decided we'd make money for ourselves. So I've really been fortunate in a lot of things. As a guy that served all that time in jail, but I've had a lot coming my way. And what happened was the club took off, and obviously we didn't even want to step in anybody's toes in Glasgow. We started being Billy Big was, you know what I mean, going a Sunday night in Glasgow and a Monday night, people are going to take offence. So what we did was we opened up another club night in Edinburgh. And to get there, people, you know, they know what to drive and come back to the club and all. We hired coaches. And again, we were lucky because that became part of the event. People would actually come through for Edinburgh in the train. You go back on the coach to Edinburgh because it was such a scream, it's chaos. We did beach parties later on, and this was as bad as having a beach party, except it was on a stagecoach coach going through to Edinburgh. Took off in Edinburgh, and then we did Fat Sam's in Dundee. Now, that was the 3 top-class clubs in Scotland at the time. That was where all the football players went. You know, that was all your models and all that. And I'd be continually hearing all the stories about all these rich people, you know, going out to Marbella and all that, and Costa del Crime. I thought, have some of that, you know what I mean? Went over. And I ended up, you know, working in bars and running bars and clubs and, you know, didn't jump headfirst into I'm going to become, you know, an alleged narco trafficker. Alleged. But what happens is you might meet somebody that, you know, one of the top guys in Glasgow knows and trusts you because he's seen you working in the doors and you know a grass, don't open your mouth and says, look, I need to hire a motor. And obviously they can't go to a car hire shop, you know, and get a motor. And your pal's got a motor and say, aye, no, there's the keys, you can have that for a couple of days. Might be an apartment. Oh, we can't book him into a hotel. You know, he's a bit hot property. Do you know anybody that's got aye, my mate's mum and dad away for a month, they don't come back, there's the keys. Or they arrive, you know, this is years ago when it was pesetas and all, oh, we've got all this money in like pound notes and we need to change it up really rapid into, you know, pesetas. Aye, no problem. You know, things just escalate. I call it, what is it, the unacceptable suddenly becomes the acceptable. You know, you might be sitting and you don't take drugs and you're at a party and you're a teenager and somebody's smoking a joint. You're not going to leave the party because somebody's smoking a joint. You go to a student party and maybe you're the only one that's not smoking a joint, everybody else is, or somebody's doing a line. It doesn't mean you are, but you just become used to it. You know what I mean? And then you're at parties in Marbella and the guy's got, like, you know, a lot more, you know what I mean? And it's a different lifestyle. And it just, a gradual progression.
So it's escalated.
Aye, it's just went that way.
So how did you find yourself in mainland Spain, and when did you start getting mixed up in the serious trafficking?
It was, as I said, you couldn't put a date on it because things that just seemed like a wee joke. And all.
How long did it take you?
I was there for about 3 or 4 years before I got caught.
Right.
Right.
How long were you involved in it before that day?
Probably about 3 or 4 years.
Right, so.
Right. But not to that level.
Right.
I wasn't doing, you know what I mean? It's like, as we were talking before, saying like, if you were wanting to buy a car and Cam behind the camera is wanting to sell a car, and I said, oh, all right, I've got this mate, Jim, is it all right, give me your phone number. And obviously you then say, oh, I got a couple of grand for the car, there's 500 quid, or I'll take you out tonight. Does that make me Arnold Clark? Am I a car dealer? That's my conscience, you know what I mean? That was the way I would describe it, you know what I mean?
So I'm going to take you. No, right. I'll ask you first, actually. So what type of drugs were you smuggling?
We were caught allegedly with a load of hash.
Right. How many kilos?
100, but it evaporated remarkably at one point because when we get charged it was 10.
And it's the same charge for 10 as it is 100?
Aye.
So what's the point in wasting 90 kilo?
Aye, well there was a lot of stone Guardia Civil, I imagine, or whatever, you know what I mean?
This is where the story gets really fascinating, right? Because it's like a scene for a movie. So talk me through that day, right, when you are in the vehicle and you're with your crew and you're driving up and you've got the 100 kilo in the back seat. You sitting in the back seat?
I'm in the passenger seat.
You're in the passenger seat? So what happened?
Just the two of us. Well, in the morning I've left like the luxury villa in the swimming pool all nice and dressed and all that, you know, I think, that's the life. I never usually go in the motor. But if the truth be told, there was a mate of mine said, oh, remember that barmaid? She was asking my wife if you were like, and I'm like, oh, I'll jump in the motor. Honestly.
You're still like that?
Aye. So we're arriving now. The guy that's with me that's driving is actually older than me, and he should be more responsible than me. But Spain in those days, there was no like control on drugs or anything like that. They weren't looking for drugs. Their main problem was the Basque separatist movement, ETA, because they were blowing up like police stations and, you know, the army barracks and that. So they're looking for explosives.
So like a terrorist group?
Aye.
Right.
So they've got roadblocks. But what they would do is they're driving along the main road and they would have a filter lane and they'd sort of wave you there and then you go and turn into this and they'd maybe pick every third car to search. So even then it's not a big deal. And we've got filtered into this lane and all of a sudden the guy that's driving, he's just sort of like, like, you know, I know, I'm going, oh, no, I'm still like, this is not going to end. And he's like, get rid of that, throw it out. Like, so we've passed, they've got vehicles, so I can see, that man can see us. We're turning in a bend and the bags have went out. And then we've got pulled into where we have to stop. We've went in the car and we're like, nothing there, you know what I mean? About to say, on you go. But what's happened is, like, a lorry's going past and he's seen us because he's driving beside us. He's seen it going out. The cops haven't seen it going out. And he's went like, I didn't speak Spanish, but the other guy did. And he's like, he went white. You know, this guy's obviously, I've seen them, you know, they're busy letting us go because I've looked in the boot and there's nothing there. I've seen them throwing some stuff out. So I went, you wait here, wait a minute. And then chaos ensued, right, you know. There's maybe 3 or 4 police cars there. It's like 5 o'clock at night or whatever.
Were they armed?
The
police armed?
Oh, they're all armed. But then it's just went there on the radio because they've just found this. Now, Murcia, where we got caught in those days, is like it's now like like quite a touristy place, and they've got all the golf resorts and all, like Manga Golf Resort, Manor Golf Resort, Notorious. But at that point, you've got the Costa del Sol, then there's nothing for several hundred miles, then you go up to Alicante and you've got Benidorm. So that bit, there's nothing there. They're no used to dealing with anything like that. The next thing we know, you've got 3 different police levels in Spain. You've got the blue shirts, which are the municipal, you know, they do the day-to-day stuff. You've got the National Guard. They're like the equivalent of the National Guard in America. They're paramilitary. You know, they've got machine guns and all that, and they run about in the old army Land Rovers. So, and I mean dozens of them have appeared. Not just 1 or 2 motors, I mean dozens.
Did they draw guns on you?
Oh, they've got machine guns and all that, everything, everywhere.
And
then when it gets really serious, the Guardia Civil come out. The Guardia Civil are like the SAS in Spain. They're the black ones that come out in, you know, all black. And they've arrived, and I swear to God, there was hundreds of police. Because they're all wanting their photographs taken, you know, they're all like, guns it is and all that. And the one thing that sticks out to my mind, they took me out the car and they put me in a Range Rover or something away from the other guy. And I'm looking, and all this is going on, chaos, and I'm like going, I'm not getting a beer tonight, I don't think, you know what I mean? That's my first thought, you know what I mean? I'm not getting a beer, I'm fucking rattling. And I just seen this wee woman driving towards me. I can't remember if she was driving or in the passenger seat or what, but I just seen her crossing herself like that, and I thought, oh my God. Then you know, I'm just young and dumb. I've not realised this is serious. I'm thinking we'll still walk, you know what I mean? You know, your attitude is, oh, here, one of the pubs will not be shutting for a while, like, you know what I mean? I've not realised, you know, this is really serious, you know what I mean? I'm like, you know what I mean?
Where did they take you for there?
Well, I never seen the other guy who was with me for weeks after that. I thought he was getting the same treatment as me. But he was a Spanish resident, even though he's a British citizen. He was a Spanish resident, so they know who he is. His girlfriend or fiancée is a lawyer, but she's a divorce lawyer. She's not a criminal lawyer, but a lawyer's a lawyer, right? And I'm thinking he's going through the same crap as me. I went for there and I get taken to, because as I said, this is in the middle of nowhere, to like a police cell. We now think it's Lorca, which is a Spanish village in the mountains. You know what I mean? It's like one-stop cop shop. It's not, they're not used to holding people. I've ended up in this dungeon, which is floor levels way up, about 30 foot above. This thing is like 3 sides. It's like a cave. It's like going to Edinburgh Castle. You know what I mean? It's just stone walls. It's all damp and all that. It's cobblestone floor, but it's not like proper cobbles. Half of it's broken up because it's hundreds of years old. You stand and there's dust goes everywhere and all that. And there's like a mattressy thing on the floor that's thrown there as an afterthought, and a ragged blanket that's come off a horse or a dog or something like that, you know what I mean? And I'm like, aye, it's all right, you know. You know how you're like that? Aye, it'll be all right. And I'm thinking, this morning I was lying in a Lincoln 5-star hotel and all that, you know, and it, you know, come down and they're gobbling away, you know, for hours, and, you know, I'm not making it easy for myself, I'm being cheeky, you know, and they understand the F-U-C-K word, you know what I mean? It's universal, so when you're being cheeky, you're getting a slap for that.
Could you speak Spanish at this point?
Not
so
a word.
You weren't really
Not
sure
a
what they
clue.
were saying. You told me a story of when you were in that cell. Obviously, it was inhumane, but they had guard dogs outside.
I did, like, it was 3 walls, and it's like, they covered maybe a double door. It was just, you know, the old-fashioned, like, gate thing that you can't get through. And the dogs are on there just to annoy you. You know, there's no need for the dogs. You're not going through the door and they're growling about. And they're like, the dogs are anorexic because they're getting fed this absolute crap. It's like porridge or gruel with bits of vegetables and bits of whatever in it. They're getting that to dogs, then the same bowl's getting into me. And then there's a dog's water bowl. And I'm not joking, this is for anybody that's thinking of pursuing that career, this is what you're looking at. They're peeing in it before they're getting me it in the bowl of water that the dogs have in it. And you're not, you know what I mean, my memories are vague of this, partly because I was malnourished, I wasn't sleeping, I was getting slapped a bit. You know what I mean? I'm coming to and, you know, telling them what I think and they're not, and getting slapped again and unconscious. And all this bit about your lawyer coming and your load of nonsense. I never seen the consulate. And I didn't know, I thought it was a couple of days I was in there, but last summer, I met up with all the guards when the story came out in Spain. They came up to my place in Spain and we dug out all the old paperwork and tried to piece together how long. According to them, that when the co-accused arrived, it was 18 days before 18 days later that I arrived on their records, because there's not any computer documents. And Spain was that embarrassed, not about what they did to me, but what they did to everybody. They're getting rid of all their records and all that. But they've got his arrest thing, and obviously we got arrested at the same time, and they've got my prison entry. And there's 18 days, so I was there for 18 days.
So see that, you're enduring the conditions for 18 days, eating the same as the dogs, getting abused by the guards. Take me to the day they moved you from there and you're going up to the very first prison. What's the name of the first prison?
It's... that's in Murcia. It's Sanganera La Verde prison in Murcia. It's still there. And it was more modern. It was like, built in the 70s or something like that, 80s, whatever. So that's all right. And back in those days, to give the kids that are watching it, we didn't have Netflix and all that. We didn't have all these gangster films. I'd never seen a prison, you know what I mean? You didn't know what it was going to be like or anything like that.
You told me you were on the bus, but you couldn't see out. It was like
couldn't
a cage.
See out. On the bus, I'm 6 foot, so my knees are not even, my feet aren't touching the floor to get my knees up. And it's like sheets of metal, round. It's solid metal, but they've got drill holes, like, the old mechanical sets with the wee holes in them so you could put things. It's like that. There's holes there for your breathing. But that's covering the glass on the window as well. It's like, and then they've reinforced it all. And you're handcuffed and manacled in the feet as well. It's like...
So what's your emotions at that point? Because are you thinking about, do my family know where I am? Or?
I was like embarrassed I didn't want my mum. Going through all that, my main worry was I hope my mum doesn't find out. Seriously, I'm like, if my mum finds out, oh God, they're going to die. You know what I mean? But see through the whole thing there, these guys are playing me a mind, because looking back at it, they must have thought, because I was the younger one, they'll give me it and I'll break, tell them who's done this and all that. Because eventually they brought in translators, but I couldn't speak. I had broken teeth and all that, you know what I mean? Once you get to it, it's not I'm a hard guy or anything like that, but you get MD, you batter them 2 or 3 times a day. By the second day, you don't care. You know what I mean? It doesn't have any... It's not the same as the first day. You get a gradual, your pain tolerance maybe goes up, or you're just unconscious most of the time. You don't realise. But what the one thing was, and obviously it's going to mixed audiences, I'm trying to keep it clean. But they've made it clear, even though I don't speak Spanish and they don't speak English, that I'm going to have a boyfriend when I get to the other end, or several boyfriends, you know what I mean, young guy, you're going to be really... That's been conveyed in a certain manner that know that I'm going to get sorted. And basically what happens is, like, I don't know what happens here, because I've never done it here, but you go from there and you just get thrown out into a patio, which is like, it's size like a football park, because there's a basketball court in it, and then you've got all concrete around the basketball court, so probably like a football park size. But you've got all these guys, and you're just seeing that, and it's like one flew over a cuckoo's nest. You're seeing these guys walking up and down, and you're like, what's going on here? Are they ordered to walk? My first thing, what you've got to do, is that punishment? You've got to walk up and down all day? No, it's not. They just choose to do that. But if you bear in mind, I've not seen daylight for 18 days. I'm not eating properly. My eyes are like... I've got a beard, and now I go sort of silvery grey. It's quite distinguished if I let it go. I'm like Sean Connery in The Hunt for Red October. Very distinguished. Then, if anybody remembers Braveheart, with the lunatics, with the red beards coming out here, and it's no kempt, the hair's up there. I did have hair then, I know. I've got slight hole and teeth missing. My eyes are out like that, and I'm like that. I look like a lunatic, People would just look, and they weren't avoiding. And it was just mental.
So going through the prison then, your first day, do you remember that?
Aye, I told you, we were talking about this down in the spa.
It was the first
yesterday.
week. I know you were...
The very first day I get in, there was a guy that was going to be my best mate in there. He was like, nephew, his uncle was the guy that's in the French Connection film. This guy got caught. He was in his posh motor, his Ferrari, and there's 2 articulated lorries full of hash following him. We were talking thousands and millions of tons. So he was already in for a few months, and he's been told there's a new European guy coming in. So he's sent over his bodyguard, this big Moroccan guy. He's about 7 foot tall, built like a brick outhouse, with a packet of fags and a coffee to say, "Hi, how you doing? Come and sit with us. You'll be all right." I don't see that. I've just been that worried that somebody's going to make me their boyfriend and all that. The guy's coming over with a packet of fags, and I've just lashed out and lamped him. I've caught him a smacker. It's cut out his eye and all that, but this guy, he would have picked me up and eaten me for breakfast and then threw me away. But because he's been told to give me a packet of fags, he's not even reacted. He's just like, "Shut up, come over here," no. But it used to be funny, years later, people would see this guy with this big thing, and who did that to you? And he'd point to me and go, "Oh my God, he must have been some..." But
as you say, you don't know who to trust. You think they're
and
just
it was
going
just, I was lucky because that had, like, Joel and that no welcomed me,
So was that his name there? I didn't think you were going to name him the mafia guy, Joel.
But he did that. That was his name in that
in the prison, right?
Because he was still there when I left. Because he was facing such serious charges in France, he wouldn't tell them his real name. So nobody knew his real name.
But it was good to you.
Brilliant to me. And his driver ended up being later on the drummer that we knew, and they all got out. And Joel was still no sentenced.
So he's remanded all that
he
time.
He could still be here now. He'd still be there now.
That's crazy. I know you were only in for 1 week.
Aye.
And you were stabbed.
Aye.
Can you talk me through that?
Yeah. What happens is you get a lot of people that prey on innocent, and they try and test you, see who will let them away with it. And if you let them away with something, they'll end up, you will be somebody's boyfriend, you know what I mean? And it's just testing. But they won't do it to somebody on their own, they'll do it in packs. Now, I want to make clear, I know a lot of traveller people and popular gypsies who are total gentlemen, and when I say gypsies, I am not referring to Romany gypsies or travellers. These people call themselves jippos, gitanos in Spanish, and it's just the translation, but these are the dregs of the earth, right? They're all like, preying on the innocent. They've got no morals, no scruples. They're all, petty criminals that will go around in groups, and they'll see a new guy that's in there, take him to the showers and, day about the day. Or there'll be somebody's got a visit and they'll steal their stuff off them and they can't stick up for them, you know what I mean? So I'm standing in the queue for the coffee, and I thought I'd been punched, because what had happened was one of these jippos has come up a few days into it and went in front of me in the queue for the coffee. I just told them, no big deal, I'm not malice, I just, beat it. Just as you do in the queue at Central Station, somebody skips in front of you for the ticket. Just natural, you're not picking a fight. And then, but this guy's no said then, but he's waited like 2 or 3 days and he's got his mates and all, and it's obviously very premeditated when I tell you what happened. I've just felt this punch. And now my mates, I'm getting the coffee and they're sitting there, Joel and Hai, the Moroccan. I've just come running over before I know it. And this is like 5 to 2, and we get locked up at 2 for siesta. So it's all, I don't know what's happening. Just felt the punch. The next thing, it's all kicked off, guards are over. So I've went up to the cell at 2 o'clock with this wee Spanish guy who doesn't know me for Adam. Later on you can choose who you're in with, but don't speak the language, I don't know MD, you're just stuck in with somebody. And this guy's battering on the walls, he can't speak English and he's pointing at me and guards and all that, and I'm just talking about. I'd been stabbed, but what I'd been stabbed with wasn't a knife. It was a thing called a pincho. That's like a kebab skewer, right? But that long. Showed you the thing the other day. And that's went in. Fortunately for me, there is somebody up there looking after me who's went through without piercing in, so I haven't even noticed it, and it's quite thin, so it's more the punch. But the reason this guy's getting worried is he knows what's happening, because he's been there, and he knows what they're up to and what. They've dipped this thing, there's rats everywhere, so they've dipped this thing in rat excrement. And if that's no bad enough, they then take it and put human excrement on top of it, well, in case the rat doesn't kill you, human stuff, because apparently that's really toxic. And that's went into my insides, and that doesn't take long to affect you. By 5 o'clock, this poor Spaniard, I don't remember after, I don't know whether it's New York or New Year, I'm being retold the story. By tea time, they're dragging me out when they open up the cells, and this poor boy's been battering on the cell door for 3 years, thinking he's going to get the blame for killing me. You know what I mean? Because they don't look at who did it, I'll blame you. I get taken to the infirmary, pumped full of, the, what do you call them, antibiotics or whatever, there for 3 days and all that, and like, don't know what's happening. All the time, you know, I'm not going anywhere, but I'm still chained to the bed, you know what I mean? And it's like the lunacy. I can't have to ask somebody to come over and give me a glass of water or pick, you know, scratch my nose.
How long were you in there for?
3 days.
Did you recover okay after that?
I wasn't in perfect health when I came out, you know, I was very weak and all that because I was drained and all that. Plus, this was only within a week of coming in. I was 18 days of no eating and drinking. I was pretty in a bad state when I came in, you know what I mean? And so that was the welcome to that. And that kind of stuff just was par for the course for about 2.5, 3 years. You know what I mean? That was just everyday things, not me, but other people and all that, you know, and things were going nowhere.
What was the conditions like in your cell?
Conditions, in that one in Mercia, you get it's bunk beds, two to a thing. And when people go on about kettles and microwaves, no running water, no electricity, you know, you had to go downstairs, you get a bucket, and then when you go downstairs, the toilets are like, if anybody remembers going on holiday in Spain, where for a number 2, it's a hole in the ground, and you've got a wooden plank, and it's in a trench, and they burn that, you know what I mean? You know, it's no nice, you know what I mean? And that's probably right next to where they're cooking the food as well, you know what I mean? The food they did cook, you know what I mean? The conditions, Spain is very different from what I can gather about British prison system. In Spain, they want you outside all the time, you know, because you need less guards that way or whatever, you know, it's to punish you. Whereas in the UK, you might get out 1 hour a day. In Spain, you actually want to get back in yourself for a bit of peace and quiet. Because the day you get up at 8 o'clock, you know what I mean, you've got an hour to get your cell ready, and there's like, in Murcia, the first prison, which was quite quiet, comparatively speaking, you've got 20 cells with 2 people in it, or 10 cells either facing each other with 2 people in each, so like 40 people or whatever it is. And you've got an hour to clean your cell and mop the floor or whatever outside. It's one person's turn to mop. Like, you know, that we used to get in the tenements, so it's now your turn to clean the clothes. So it's your turn, you know, and somebody will make sure you do it. Of course, all these wee simple things I wouldn't do. I'm having fights with the guards. Now, anybody with a bit of common sense, all you've got to do is mop the floor. And for doing that, you've got your good behaviour and you maybe get a quarter day off your sentence. So if you get a 10-year stretch, you get out in 7.5 years by mopping the floor. There's 40 people doing the maths. You only have to do it once, not even once a month. I'm no guilty. I'm no mopping the floor. You can go and take that mop and that bucket and, you know what I mean? And I can't even speak Spanish, so all they can hear is F this and F that, and they, you know, so that ends up in tears again, you know, getting hanged for that.
How long were you in there before you had to go up to court to get your sentence?
I just kept appealing it because I thought I wasn't guilty, you know, I'm just appealing and all that. And that's the lunacy as well. I had this chip on my shoulder, well, they didn't catch us with actually in the motor, you know, I'll show them I didn't do it, you know, and the judge is not caring. The police said you did it, that's it, you know what I mean?
How long were you there until you went up to the court then?
Oh, about a year or something like that. And then it immediately got appealed to Madrid, went up to Madrid then.
And that was at the start of the episode we were talking about the wee saying you said to the judge because it was I got it wrong, it's £65 million fine. That's crazy. Why did he do that?
It's just the way, because Spain was trying to get into the common market, then you've got to put this on context. Franco had been in charge for 30 years or something like that. Spain's now got King Juan Carlos and they want to join the common market. And they're looking at Spain, it's the Costa del Crime. People are running about doing what they want. And you're not coming in the common market. You've got no drugs laws and that. So all of a sudden they want to be seen to be really heavy on everyone. So they know who in the right mind's going to pay 65 million. But when they go to like the Hague or whatever and say, oh look, we're reforming the prison. Look at the sentences we're going to, you know what I mean? Look at that, you know, and we're extraditing people as well, you know, it's all politics, you know, and, you know, their agenda, you know, like, they're never in a million years expecting them to pay that fine. But when it goes to Luxembourg or whatever, and they say, oh, they're imposing, look at this, you know, hash, 65 million fine, no, you know, oh, brilliant, you know what I mean? Just, you know, playing games, you know what I mean?
It's madness. What a story. But that's what I'm saying, we're not even scraped the surface. So when you went back after your sentence, obviously you befriended the French mafia guy.
Aye.
Right? And did he look after you then after that?
Aye, because he was a few months in before me, right? And he sort of was like, respected, but, you know, him and the Moroccan guy, because Moroccans speak fluent French, you know, they teamed up and they're big guys. And he had his two drivers. One of them worked in the kitchen, who became my drummer later on, and the other one worked in the coffee shop. Because Joel had the clout that he could, you know, people know who he is, so he's got his two boys working, one's in the kitchen, one's in the coffee shop. He can't get the two better jobs, so he gets better food and he gets his coffee whenever he wants it, you know what I mean? But he can't get a job because he's persona non grata, but he's still getting all his perks. But what happened, being respected is one thing, you know, nobody will touch you, but he wasn't earning and he wasn't doing in. But the funny thing is, I had nothing to do with this. I am lying in a bed, you know, when Joel sorted this. But my misfortune turned out to be one of the best things that happened to him. Because obviously these guys have done me, and there's going to be repercussions. And he's not going to let his mate, you know what I mean, get done. But the guy that done us, he is the nephew of the sort of king of the gypsies in that jail. But apparently this guy's lost all his sons through drugs and knife fights and whatever. And all his only male relative, which apparently is quite big for them, you know, the family lineage, is like this boy that stabbed me. And Joel and High are going to do him. So this guy's got on his knees and greeting and saying, you can have anything you want, you know what I mean? You know, they were controlling all the drugs that was going into the prison because, you know, the conjugal visits, everything's coming in. And heroin was people dying with heroin overdoses, not necessarily just with the heroin. A year later, they died of the AIDS that they got off of the shared needles. It was horrible. You know what I mean? It was nightmare. But Joel's got his morals. He's like, I'm not wanting anything to do with that heroin. That's killing people. But we'll have the hash. You'll bring in the hash and we'll control it. Otherwise, your boys did. You know what I mean? And that was it. You know, the guys like that, all right. But they still were allowed to give him a good doing because they can't lose face. You know, I'm lying in the hospital bed. You know what I mean? We've got to show an example. So they gave the guy a smacking, you know, but didn't kill him. But as a result of that, Joel has then got all the hash that's coming into the prison. He's controlling it. You know, these jippos are bringing it in. It's got to run through him. He gets his commission on top. You know what I mean? So my misfortune set him up for the rest of it. And that eventually moved into... It was funny, I'd have tellies like about 2 days a week. Because people were allowed to, you had to do this thing. There's a form you do in Spain. If you want an extra toilet roll, there's this thing called an instancia. Anybody that's done time would know that. And it's the most humiliating thing ever. You've got to put this bit of paper, and it's the language you've got to use. And if you don't lose it, it's your tough luck because you'll not get your toilet roll. It's with your honourable guard, please allow your humble servant, and I will kiss your arse on the way back with gratitude to give me an extra toilet roll because I've got diarrhoea. Now, you have to do that for everything. If you want to go to the gym, you have to do it. If you want a visit, you have to do it. You want a phone call, you have to do it. So it's just a way of putting you in your place and demeaning you all the time. So you have to do that for your clothes. You have to do that for, you know, some people in the wee, and my telly, I'm talking about black and white telly with a dial and that, it doesn't work. And that's when you had electricity because half the time you'd no electric. And you get a telly. But people would... owe money, so I'm the telly, and because we couldn't have tellies because we hadn't asked for the permission, so renting them out, we'd make tellies going on, you might remember, then radio rentals are Granada. At 500 per set, it's about £2.50 a go. We'd about 200 tellies out there, you know what I mean? So money was coming in, you know what I mean? But you laugh about it, you know, and you remember all these daft incidents and all that. But you don't remember when bang went, you know what I mean, and you're there.
Well, you told me a few stories, but
no
like
lights and...
You said that life was cheap there and there was people dying and you were just to walk by and they were lying in the yard, is that?
Aye. That was what Cam was saying. He came up with the word, you desensitise this thing. You don't become a bad person, because I don't think I was a bad person, you know, and wasn't going out and hitting people or anything like that. But I remember very early on, I was trying to remember who it was, and I think there was a Swiss guy there, because it makes sense, because he spoke English, because Joel didn't. And it was very early on, we're walking past. Now, put this is like 87, 88. The whole AIDS epidemic has just hit Europe, right? Now, it hit the prisons worse than it hit anything else. There was people going in there with small sentences, a year, 2 years. They didn't come out. They actually died in the jail. And they didn't get stabbed. They died through intravenous drugs and getting AIDS, HIV, whatever.
You told me there was like ladyboy type, but they weren't really ladyboys to
Oh, they were. They could have worked in most of the doors in Glasgow. And you wouldn't give them any cheek.
And the people were still entertaining that because
they were still entertaining that.
This is where the AIDS was spreading.
Through that, through the needles. And you've got the insanity. Well, there's the guys there going, that have never touched drugs in their life. They're only there for, something stupid. You could be there, I'm making it up, let's say it, drunk driving. You've never been in jail all your life and you just get a judge that doesn't like you, which they could do in those days. They put you in for 6 months. You're in there for 6 months because you're feeling sorry for yourself. You want to numb your emotions, or you might be getting battered, or somebody's had you as their boyfriend. So you're very vulnerable. So everybody else is taking it, so you take it. So from being a nice wee guy that's one night he's the wrong place and he's drunk driving, is suddenly sharing needles with other intravenous users. And it's not even needles. It's homemade. It's a big pen. Half of the ink still dripping out it, and a battery-powered thing they call it. Was it machine they used to call it, or whatever? It's the same as you call it gear here or kit or whatever. I've never done it. But they're doing that. And then even the ones that don't take drugs are getting a tattoo done with the same needle. But I don't take drugs, I won't get AIDS. I mean, it's just like,
So I know you never took the drugs in there.
Aye.
Did you make any hooch?
Aye. Scotsman.
Talk me through that.
Oh, that was crazy. Right at the start, we tried to make stuff, and the man that wouldn't mop the floor, they call it cartel, and they come in and turn your cell upside down. They found me with 5 buckets or 6 buckets, because I bought buckets off people or borrowed them off people to make homemade wine, because there was all the fruit you got was rotten anyway. So you're halfway there. You've got all these rotten oranges, and we get all the people. He gives their sugar, but that seemed easy. I know everybody takes sugar. Junkies all take sugar and they're fucking hang me. But luckily the French guy had his boy in the coffee shop, so we had to pay for all these coffees that we didn't drink to get the sugar to make the booze, because they tally it up. They're no stupid. If you're needing all these sachets of sugar, you must be selling all the coffee. So even when we were drinking the coffee, we had to pay for them. So we're paying and we've got all this stuff, and it was as weak as water. You could get drunk on it, but you need to drink 5 litres of this horrible, cloudy, sedimenty wine. And that was always bugging me, because I knew how to make, I'd seen things about whiskey and all. Later years I did the Whiskey Association magazine. But I'm going, you just boil it off, condensation. I'm smart, I've done science, you know what I mean? We've tried to do it in the Conemato, the coffee shop, doing it in the milk thing, the steamer. It's not hot enough. We try to boil water, I've got 2 electric cables with a bit of tile between them to boil water and a thing. We're short-circuiting the whole prison every other day trying to do this, you know what I mean? And we can't do it. And we've said to guys that we know in the kitchen, I'll give you a couple of quid, you go and just boil this off, There's no way of doing it discreetly. You've got, glass tubes and all that, and there's guards everywhere because they've got knives and all that, so. And then one day it has. Somebody was talking about, Matt fancy an ice cream or that, we love ice in our drink and all that. I went, you could freeze it. Everybody's looking at me, what are you talking about? So you don't need to boil the alcohol off, because alcohol boils quicker than water, so the alcohol comes off first. What we do is we'll freeze the water. What do you mean freeze the water? So, well, water freezes and they're like, but the alcohol will freeze. No, anti-freezing motors and all that, didn't they freeze? And brilliant. So instead of 1.5 litres, the bottles of water, I think they're 1.5 litres your normal water bottles. Instead of that, you've got that much left at the bottom.
It's your pure alcohol.
That's like...
Is this too strong, this stuff?
Aye, we've drank that. We've nearly went blind. You couldn't even swallow it. You couldn't even get your nose to it. It's like, we've been 2 years trying to get this stuff, and the minute we've got it, we can't drink it because it's too strong. And, the lunacy of the things you do, Oh no, that's vile. But luckily enough, at this point, we were knowing people, and not long after that, started in the band, and things happened. You know, doing different things, and we get people sneaking us a bottle
Bottles of whiskey and stuff.
Because the guards that knew you, because we didn't do in. It's not like we were better than them, or you know, everybody's got their own problems. But the guards would see, like, we were going and doing the gym, the three of us. The Moroccan didn't drink anyway. Me and Joel would have it. He didn't take intravenous drugs. I didn't take it. And everybody else basically in the jail's taking it. They're falling about wasted. And we might know mop the floor, and we might know that, and we might annoy them. But if they did something and they were right, you know, there was a kind of mutual respect, you know what I mean? If we smacked somebody that was doing nonsense to a wee boy in the showers, they'd look the other way. You know what I mean? If somebody's getting bullied and Joel went over and sorted it, the guards were like, fair play. If you know what I mean? But he didn't run about selling heroin to people and all that, you know what I mean? You know, so there was the mutual, you don't get out of, you know, don't do it in front of us. We know what you're doing. And, you know, we'll know, overact with them. And it was a bit there. Because they'd know we had stuff in our cells, you know, and they wouldn't come in and turn you upside down. You know what I mean? With a bottle of whiskey, they knew we'd get it, because like be one of the other guards or somebody's is it. And they wouldn't do it because, as far as they're saying, booze is so normal. They get home and have a bottle of wine, they have a drink at lunchtime. So that's not anything bad to them. And it's keeping us quiet because they're thinking, imagine them on drugs. You know, they'll cause havoc. So it's better, you know, like the lesser of two evils.
So they kind of turned a blind eye.
Yeah. And eventually, you know, once the music thing later on we'll get to kicked off, there was people doing me favours. And when you do that, you can't turn around and pull you up for something else because you're like, wait a minute, you're pulling me up for that and you brought me in a bottle of whiskey yesterday. You know, sorry, that doesn't, you know, they've got to watch what they're doing.
It's, this is where the story takes another fascinating turn because there's nothing like it. So you were in there for, I think, 2 years.
2.5 to 3 years.
2.5 to 3 years.
I wasn't going anywhere at all. You know what I mean? I was just being, I hadn't even admitted my sentence. I hadn't redeemed a day. I'd actually accrued more time at that point than I'd actually served. You know what I mean? I went in with 6.5, I think I was due about 7 at that point, you know what I mean? Because I'd got sanctions against me, which are there, grave sanctions and all that, you know, for doing things that I'm not saying because it'll encourage other people, but these are serious, they're documented. And what happened was I sort of learned to be grateful for what I now realise recently, what people were doing for me. As far as I was concerned, whether you were a teacher or a social worker or a doctor, you were one of them. You weren't there to help me. You might as well have a key. You might as well be a judge or a policeman. You know what I mean? It's us and them. You know what I mean? I didn't realise that in Spain, because of what I was saying, the whole politics of the thing, Spain's trying to be part of Europe, and you've got all this younger generation coming through that have left university and they want to help people and they want to reform society and, you know, bring in all the recovery issues and things like that. And you've got the old school that's been brought up with Franco, Franco was mates with Hitler. You know, they used to, weeks before, would line somebody up against the wall and shoot them. You know what I mean? And you've got people coming out with their long hair and want to, you know, do meditation classes or something like that. You know, they do not go on. And obviously, later on, we were sort of quite focal point for that. Because what happened, they started introducing classes before everything, every job was like, kind of punishment. You know, you were out in the sun, if you were a bricklayer, you were out laying bricks. It wasn't you could go and do an art and design class, you know what I mean, sit about and, you know, like the day in BERLIN, you know, I'll go painting. No, you're painting walls, you know what I mean, you're not out painting, you know what I mean. You know, it's part of your punishment. You're painting in a 40-degree sun and you're painting 12-hour shifts. You're not sitting there with a crane and that and doing, no. So that was causing problems, you know. And the thing was, in Spain, in those areas, Murcia, where I was at the start, that's a farming community. And it wasn't just in the prisons. There's about 90% illiterate outside as well as inside, because these people, they brought up in the 30s under Franco, they didn't go to school and all that. No, they didn't read or write. Obviously, the younger generation are starting to come through, but so they've got adult literacy classes and all that, and people are going, I'm not going to read and all that, I'm going, all that, you know what I mean? And they're bombing. And one of the very fortunate things, the guy that came across my path, Juanjo Gomez Ayala, turns out, I didn't know, he's a very famous Spanish guitarist. He was a session musician. He did blues and jazz, classical guitar. And he spent a lot, because he was a session musician, he spent a lot of time in the States. And he did all the New Orleans jazz clubs when he was a student and whatnot. And he was a very kind guy. So when he eventually came back to Spain, he speaks fluent English. He's done an English degree and all that, you know what I mean? But he spoke with a New York accent, you know what I mean? He was like, where the hell is this coming from? And he loved basketball and all that. So he's opened up this academy in Murcia near the prison, and it's like an English language thing for businessmen all want to read and write in English because they want to join the common market. And naturally, he's got a music thing. So he's come into the prison trying to teach Spaniards how to read and write. They're like, no way. But the minute he brought in a guitar as a wee enticement to come in, everybody wants to come in to learn, you know, and all that. Oh, come in, he plays guitar and all that. And I don't know who told me or what happened, but somebody said, you know, because I wouldn't do anything, I wouldn't even queue for the dinner. I'd go in last, or I would cause a scene every now and then just to cause problems.
You're not like that now.
No, I'm not like that now. But it was just, I dare say, because I could have got months and years off my sentence by going to a class once a day.
Mopping the floor?
Aye, mopping the floor once a month. But no, I'm that dumb and young. So they've started this guitar class and somebody said to go along to it. And the guy's no stupid. He's got these jippos there that are banging it like a set of drums and they haven't a clue what they're doing. I've come in and been like that. Started tuning. All right. So no big deal the first time. He said, you come back, you know. And he'd heard about, there was a boy in the kitchen that could play guitar, and he thought, well, I can get two of them together and maybe do some, you know. His idea was put on a wee workshop for the other inmates. That's the whole level, right? And the guy in the kitchen, he's not want to do it because he's getting a day off. He's sentenced for every day he works in the kitchen, so he's not doing that to fanny about in guitars or like. And however word get out, obviously all this reform thing, it's not just for us, they're all trying to put money into the prisons to look good for Amnesty International and all that. And somebody said, well, if they can play a wee thing, mate, if they can put them together, like Murcia Council will give you a couple of £100 for buy, you know, electric guitars and all that, so it's put us together. And it's all right, you know, we've not done anything great. One of these breaks we've come down, we've not got electric guitars up, we sat with two Spanish guitars, just played. But guitarists day, a wee bit of 12-bar blues, status quo or something like, you know, dead easy stuff. Usual day. So he's went away and talked to a couple of the educators and all that, can we get a budget for this and that? So they've eventually agreed it and we've had a couple of sessions. So the deal is, if they got us electric guitars, we will go into the women's prison and they've got an open day where the family's coming in. Can you do 3 songs? 3 songs, 15 minutes, 5 minutes, you know what I mean? So between us, we've decided on this Santana song because it's dead easy, Europa. You can play that for hours. It's an instrumental, nobody has to sing. And we're thinking we've got to do something for the Waynes. So he's went, I'll do La Bamba, I know how to play the Bamba. It's 3 chords. And I went, La Bamba, that's Twist and Shout, the Beatles. And nobody wants to sing, so he's singing La Bamba, takes a break and I sing Twist and Shout. But then comes the catch. You've got to do one of your own songs because the council, it's because it's artistic and not, you've got to write one of your own songs. And I'm like, all right, I've got more time. It's not that I'm better than him. He's in the kitchen. I'll write a song. We thought nothing of it. And of course, Joel, the French guy, his mate said he can play drums. Oh, brilliant. Sorted. Because the drummer doesn't need to know the songs, he just needs to know the beat. He can go along, you're a good drummer. And as a boy, the bass player, he's went, I can play bass. So he's like watching, he's saying, it's 3 chords, you know what I mean? It's no brain surgery, you know. MD could do it. So we've arrived at the women's prison on this Sunday, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock. And at this point, because of the Amnesty International and the publicity, everybody's walking about these wee Amstrad video cameras, so it was nothing unusual. You know, they're filming the sports events. If you opened a letter, they would film it, you know what I mean? Film in the kitchens, you know, look at all this wonderful filming the sports. Nothing thought about it. And it's only when we've come back, first of all, we've got there and the drums have arrived. And apparently the guards had great fun the night before. They arrived at midnight and they had unpacked the drums. They're battering the shit out of them and all that, and annoying everybody. We couldn't hear it. So they've got all the women in that and all the wains on a bit, and we're about to play and all that. Like Michelle behind it, you know what I mean? 1, 2, 3. You can't play drums. And we're like, I thought you could play drums. No, I just wanted to come and see the woman. God help us, you know what I mean? And we can't put him in it. So one of the social workers or one of the guards has come over and sat behind the drums, and it's not a big deal. And we're playing away, and we did our 3 songs, and that's it. And all the guys are all running. But Adrian, the other guitarist, he ended up getting out with this French Moroccan bird, because while we're packing the gear up, he's got her letter and all that, and he arranged, apparently if you wrote to somebody for 3 months, you could meet them then behind the glass for 6 months, and then you could have the conjugal visit. So he's no fly, you know, he's Spanish, he knows the script. You know, the minute he's put his guitar away so quick, and he's running right over there and talking to this bird and getting a number and all that, and I'll write to you and all that, and we're all packing up the gear. Now, we didn't know anything about this till we've got back. The next day, we're in, having our lunch, and as we're walking out, I've just gone like that, and they're pointing up. And we're on the telly, on the lunchtime BBC News, covering that in Spain. What we didn't know is these people with the cameras weren't the social workers. That was Spanish television. Because this was a Sunday afternoon, and they've got a programme, you can look it up, it's called Chickalandia. I believe it's still going now. It's like the lunchtime Sunday kids programme. It's like Ant and Dec. This is national telly. We're playing 3 songs to all the wains. Absolutely terrible. But it's went out. So they've latched onto the prison bit and all that. So it's went out on Reporting Scotland, Glasgow at the 5 o'clock news. It's went out on the 10 o'clock news that night on Reporting Scotland, BBC One, you know, the whole of Scotland. And by the lunchtime, it's on the BBC lunchtime news over the whole of the BBC UK.
And that's us, we're into about the early 90s by that point.
Aye, this is
91.
90, 91, something like that, aye.
That's what I'm saying, it just went mad. It
just
went all
went
over
mad.
Spain, but you never knew that.
We never knew
you
that.
went back to the prison. You're still within.
This is just done within the prison. And what's happened there is, that's our first concert. We've only ever played together. That's our first time we've played together. It's went out on national TV. That's the Sunday. The prison loves all this publicity. So they've only asked us to go back on the Saturday, because they've got speaking to the media during the week. We said, look, can you go on the radio on Saturday and play 2 songs? Aye, because we're getting out. You know.
So you get to leave the prison and go to the studio?
Only to the open section, not only to the open section of the prison. Right. It's only still within the walls. But they didn't believe it. Somebody's phoned in and said it's like Radio Clyde. Can we come in and film, record them? Oh, brilliant, aye, come in. But at the same time, BBC Radio Scotland have phoned and said, can we come in? And they thought, aye, they're only kidding, we'll just take the bait in. Both vans have arrived, so you've got Radio Clyde and Radio Scotland, you know, the equivalent of that in Spain, are fighting over who's got the rights to it. Now, we've no rehearsed or anything since the last time. We've had to do 2 songs that I'd written. I had to write another song, and we're doing that on the equivalent of national radio, 2 songs on our second ever concert within 6 days of the first. That's went all right. The following Sunday, so it's 14 days after our first ever appearance, we are on the Top 40 show doing 3 songs that I'd written live on the whole of Spain on the Top 40 show on the Sunday afternoon. Now, to this day, I don't know how they did it. And here at number 20 is Wham. Number 18, it's Simple Minds. Now, we're just going to stop for 15 minutes and send you over to Murcia Prison, where they've got these 3 idiots who have never played together going to do 3 of their own songs.
Did you have the 3 songs by that point?
Aye, I had to write you know.
It was you wrote them all? Aye,
and I had to, it was like, every day, can you write another one like that? So this has attracted attention, and with the synchronicity and the universe looking after us, there's a music competition just happening at this time for... Nowadays, it'd be like the X Factor. Then it was a battle of the bands, and you had to... You know, it'd be the Glasgow heat, and then the Scotland heat, and then the North of England and Scotland, all the way up. And it's just progressed. It doesn't happen instantly, you know. We're doing concerts for, like, they bring in the councillors and all that. So we're getting a wee bit better, you know what I mean? And the Prime Minister or whatever will come down and, you know, they'll show us off, you know, here's the time prisoners. And I'm not thinking we're in this competition. No, it's helping us because, like, things like I've got my own cell because I've got in... I don't even have to say, please, Your Honour. I'm like, I need, if you want me to write songs, I need to have the right environment, you know. I need my own cell, you know, I'm an artist and all that, you know. And we did go a wee bit over top, which later on we'd come back to bite us, you know what I mean? We're wanting, you know, didn't quite bad as like Van Halen and getting the yellow Smarties or the blue Smarties out the thing, but it was heading that way. So they keep entering us in this music competition, we were writing songs and things like that. And it got to the stage where, we got to say the Scotland heat and it's getting serious. And we've got to do like demos and stuff like that. Now, a social worker had been recording wee snippets and demo tapes, just us playing, you know, just rehearsing and sending it off to radio stations and all that. And they're getting played because they've got nothing else and it's such a good story. They're putting it on national radio, just us. You know, with the wee old cassettes with the microphone, one microphone, and that's it, and that's getting played on the radio. So there's a big interest. And the local DAs and the local press, they all think it's brilliant. So what's happened is they've got a local producer, Pepe Moreno, who is now one of Spain's top producers. He's still going, and he's worked with all the bands over the years. And he's basically come in, and obviously they've not got infinite budgets, and they've said, look, how much can you do for this amount of money? And he said, well, look, we normally only do one song, you know, but, you know, we can't do that, you know. What we'll do is we'll give them 20 minutes, I'll record them live, and then we'll pick out a song. That's the best I can do. All right, so I think we did 7 songs that managed to fit into the 20 minutes. So we didn't do anything special, we didn't pick any special songs. They just said, just play your normal, you know, where we set, and we'll pick... And the song that they picked, a song called Runaway, was just, it could have been any one of them.
That's the one you've wrote?
Aye, I wrote them all. And it was written the night before, because they wanted, they said, can you do one that's a bit more catchy? And I go, okay, right.
What was the meaning behind Runaway? It just comes to you?
Aye, it just comes to you. There was no hidden meaning and all that. It's just like a guitar and all that, you know, and every one of the songs, I didn't sit and go, I've got an inspiral moment. It'd be like, oh, you've got 5 songs, we need another one. I'd go away and write a song. You know what I mean? Go away and do it. I wouldn't sit there and go, I'm going to sit down, you know, or inspiration comes. It's when I had to, it would come, you know what I mean?
How's your Spanish at this point? Is that you starting to be
I'm pretty fluent then. I'm all right, you know, it's good then. Because I'm doing all these interviews on the radio. I think I told you, the first radio interview we did, which is with Angel Sapena, this famous DJ now, comes back into life, and it's strange. We're in like the guards thing, and it's on by telephone. And I remember we've got the radio on, and we're on the phone. And obviously there's only one phone. And the radio's gone, and you can just hear down the back of it, we turn that effing radio off because they're getting feedback, and you know it's going out live in the studio. And the guards are all there. And of course the guards are there, the band's there, the social workers there. There's only a wee office and it's all passed around the phone and you can't hear what the other person's saying or what the DJ's saying or the presenter's saying to the other ones and all that. And the thing was, it wasn't that I was the most talented at, but because I'm British and they're Spanish, it's more interest that I can speak, you know, and oh, it's brilliant, and you're the singer and all that, you know, and you're the whatever, and you wrote the song. I'm like, I don't want to speak on him, you know what I mean? As we were on, just about to go on there, this lady boy, but more boy than lady, comes running in live on the radio and starts saying that they are going to do something with the director, have sex with the director and have sex with us, give the director AIDS, because they've not gave them enough condoms in their monthly, you know, when you get your toilet roll and your toothpaste and you get a condom. And this has gone live over on like tea time radio in Spain. And this is screaming at the top of the voice, and all the guards are like, try to drag them out. And this is no transsexual because there's no operations. They just
a man
makeup.
dressed.
Aye, put makeup on and sell their services, and it's shouting at all the guards and screaming that they're going to infect the director and the director's wife and the director's dog and all that. Like, oh no.
And this is live.
And this is live, and that's our first ever radio appearance. And we're now just cut that and put on a couple of songs, you know what I mean?
So take me to where you formed the name then, how the name came about.
The name came on the first day as we were coming out. Coming out there, and one of the guards is that they're asking on the phone what you're called, and somebody, I remember it was somebody said Pookie, and that means something like why not, and all that shit. And we were watching just after our wee clip, it's going back to the Berlin Wall crumbling. We're looking at that, and now I'm not going to claim it was me, I'm not saying it wasn't, but you know what I mean, everybody said afterwards that it was me that did it. I thought that, but we're just watching it, and Berlin, that'd be brilliant, Berlin Wall, you know, prisoners. Great, no, aye, that. And it was kind of anti-establishment as well. That was like, no, we'll break the barriers, bring the walls, and it was good. And the BERLIN90 came about a week later when the newspapers came on. Now, when we had the bars and that, one of the bars we had before I got caught, that'd be mid-80s, Top Gun was out, and so was Dirty Dancing, the films. And we used to put them on if it was a rainy day to keep the punters in the bar. You know, they're on holiday, they're not coming down the beach because it's raining. And if it was a group of guys we'd put on Top Gun, if it was families we'd put on, you know, Dirty Dancing, you know what I mean? Now, I'd never watched the film at the end because I'm behind the bar or doing what I'm doing. The name of the band that did You Take My Breath Away was Berlin. So we've called the band Berlin, and somebody's put two and two together, and somebody that obviously watches films went like, oh, that's already been a number one. You know, even in Spain, you can't call yourself Berlin, you need to change the name. But we've got Berlin on the drums by then. And we've got Berlin, I think it's in one of the photos that you'll probably show, it's got Berlin on the poster, you know, and there's not a poster, it's a sheet that somebody's painted, you know what I mean? But it looks all right above the stage. That was the height of our props, you know what I mean? Somebody's handwritten on a sheet. No doubt somebody had to go and steal a sheet off somebody else, otherwise they would have a sheet in their bed that night. And then they've said, you need to change your name. We've got it on the drums and that, so you need to add some. So it was 1990, so they put the 90 on it. But I'm like that, you know, me wanting to pick a fight with everybody. I'm like, how can we not call it Berlin on to the newspapers and that? Oh, but you can't, because BERLIN90, you'll get in trouble with copyright and that, you know. So we're not getting paid anyway. And they're like, aye, but you know, and so we're not getting paid, they can't take any money off us. What are they going to do? Put me in jail? And they're like, well, you have got a point, you know what I mean? You might as well, but just to keep it.
I see you never changed your attitude at that time.
And that led to, you know, problems as well.
So that's where the BERLIN90 came then?
Because we had to put some to distinguish it for the copyright for the other ones, because we were getting more probably airplay than they were. So
I know you told me a story as well. You were invited outside the prison. Is that the same radio station within the wall? Was it outside the wall because there was a planned escape for one of the band members?
What is eventually, to put it in the chronology, that Runaway song was our entry in the competition. It got to the stage where we actually won the recording session. Now, that caused immense problems because they never thought we would win it. Now, the other guys by this time, you know, we've been playing for about 6 months or something like that. You know, we're all right, but we're not allowed out. But it wasn't a big issue because we're only playing the other modules and the radio stations are coming in, the TV's coming in. But now we've won the recording session. We've got to go out. And we won it round about sort of Christmas time. That'd be 1990. And we're going out, it's booked for, you know, we've got to get permissions and all that and everything else, so it's booked for Easter time, or that's when the competition prize was. Now, I'm not convicted, I still haven't accepted my sentence and all that, and I'm still...
You're innocent?
I'm innocent until, you know, and I'm holding the whole thing up. The rest of them are in the open prison. So they've did this sort of thing with me. If you take your sentence, we will guarantee you will... Well, I've done more than half of my sentence anyway, so it's not a big deal. It's just what happened to anybody else. We will guarantee you will go straight in the open prison. And, you know, I've got, like, no managers, but the social workers and the Spanish musician guy, they've set up recording contracts. And, you know, it's big deals. You know, we're doing concerts and they've got me, the minute I get the open prison, he's got me a job in his college. I've got me a job, but it means I can swan about and do interviews all day, but he's going to say he's paid me to teach English to these Spaniards and I'll get a wage. It's all sorted out. Everything. So like, I've eventually got a bit of common sense. What's the point of saying, no, I'm no, and it's, you know, I mean, I've already got an idea, you know, so I'm no grassing them up, it's only my sense. So I admit it. And this is all verbally agreed. And like every 3 months you get your assessment, like your parole hearing or something like that, right? Now, I've got notebooks that show you this, and I've met up with all the guards recently. You know, I'm not making up these stories because I'm getting told things that I'd forgotten about. Then I'm looking at the paperwork and going, oh God, did they really do that? Everything, we're playing every day because we're rehearsing, because it's great, we're getting out ourselves and playing guitar. Why would you not rehearse? It's not like you're conforming, you're playing music. And obviously we're getting better food and we're getting, you know, because the guards are bringing us in. We're not going back to the module to queue up for 2 hours for our dinner. Somebody will bring us in dinner, so it's coming for the kitchen, and we know meat is in the kitchen, so, you know what I mean? There's smaller perks. We're still getting locked up at night, you know what I mean?
You are still bringing positivity to the prison.
And we're doing this, you know what I mean? So I've agreed to this, but like I say, it keeps coming back to this divisive thing. There's the old guard that want you punished and the new ones that are reforming. So they're battling all the time, but we didn't understand that. Do you know what I mean? We weren't seeing what was happening. Because all the social workers, every time we got a new set of guitar strings, they're having to go and fight for that. But being ungrateful, no, yous are just guards without uniforms, you know what I mean?
So how did you find out when you did go outside? How did you find out there was a planned escape?
I found out about that just last summer. I had all the guards and that up. When the story came out, they all came out to my house and all that last year. But what happened prior to that is like, and it caused a lot of problems, was they promised me this, I'd get the open prison in Christmas, and the paperwork's here, you can put it up. And then the assistant director, who wasn't pro, he was anti it, knocked it back. And I hadn't forgot about this, because dates and times move into one. But for Christmas until February, I went on strike. I just wouldn't leave my cell. I'm like, well, you know, we're taking that. If I'm not getting the open prison, the other guys are in the open prison, so I'm not even going out to play music. There is nothing yet. Every day before it, I'm OCD. We wrote this song, played that song, did that. 2 months, there is nothing. And the paperwork's there. You know, MD doubts it. This is so crazy. And it's guards that brought it up. I hadn't looked at the paperwork. They turned round when it's getting to 2 weeks before we're due to this recording session's booked, and turned round and knocked 2 years off my sentence for me to go out and play. And then I've got 2 grave sanctions. That's serious stuff that's been hanging over me for 2.5 years. I've been paying that back for the things I did, and I showed you the paperwork. They've just knocked that off, cleaned me up, promised me open prison. You know, I'm basically blackmailing them into doing it. I'm a ticket, you know what I mean? So we're going out to the recording session, and they're about to do my fingerprints. You know, I've got an agenda with these guys. They've been annoying me for a while. I'll not get my fingerprints taken. No, you've got to have your fingerprints taken. No. How no? Well, I'm playing guitar. I want the ink on it. And I'm not even thinking the repercussions. It's the engineers ready, all the band members, their family members are waiting, the press are waiting. No, I'm going to risk it all because of my ego. You know what I mean? I'm going to get my own back in that guard because I don't like him. There's phone calls coming in. Now, I didn't know what was happening at all. I found this out last year when I did the radio station because the DJ was there. He's seen it all happening. The producer was telling us what it was like. We think you're just going out. We don't know how big it is. You know what I mean? We're going out. I've been to court. You know what I mean? And I understand I'm not going out in a taxi. You know what I mean? But the director, because I'll not get my fingerprints taken, is on the phone to these guards, and he's like, "Where's McCarthy? He's not coming till he gets his fingerprint. He's not like this." And he's told them, you can hear it over the phone, you know, get him, take your fucking photograph or whatever, you know. So these guys have lost face, so no, I'm going to get payback later on, but I'm not caring. So we went out. Now, I can only speak what I seen, right? I'm in, like, the armed car with 3 or 4 guards or 2 guards or whatever. You're not wasn't paying attention, going to the recording studio. But when you hear the story back, and this is the DJ's telling it because he was actually there recording it for the outside, there was something like 4 or 5 armed cars, you know, your security court vans, because there'd be a couple that would be empty, so in case somebody was coming, you know, they would know which one we were in. There is the police cars in front, the police cars at the back, the police wagons, the motorbike outriders. Then you've got all the off-duty guards, you've got all the off-duty psychologists, they've got their families, you've got fans, you've got the press, you've got everybody. And this is in a wee street in Murcia in Spain. You couldn't get moving. It was just like chaos everywhere. And what I only found out last year was the wee bass player, he's like Spain's top like bank robber and all that. Obviously he knows friends that can break things out. He's got a car waiting outside. The guys there with shooters going to break him out. And he's enjoying himself that much. He's turned and got a message out somehow to them that not to bother, we'll do it later, you know, we'll do it another day, because this is brilliant, you know, this is what a laugh this is. But the thing is, this place has got a swimming pool and all that. And I'm like, we had to tell Michelle he's not playing the drums, because the guy's like, he's not playing the drums on a real record. But we've smuggled him out because the prison don't know he can't play the drums. He's getting hammered at the swimming pool, you know what I mean? And then the bass player's done his bass bit. And he's away. But because I've got to do the vocals, then the harmony vocals, then the lead guitar, the rhythm guitar, the acoustic, I'm not seeing it. These guys are going back in the vans and they're like, para, you know, I'm drinking all day. That bastard, you know what I mean?
Brilliant.
But he got out, and the tragic story was that, I think I mentioned it's worthwhile, Tito, the bass player, years later, and to show that it's no fun and games, he died in the jail about a year or so later because all the other members of the band were doing drugs intravenously, and Tito got AIDS through sharing needles on the party with other ones, you know, and that progressed very quickly. And the thing was, that guy could have been out of the jail that day, right? But when he got the AIDS, there was so much of a stigma, it just came into Spain and it was horrific. He ended up being like a kind of nurse or an auxiliary in the AIDS wards in the prisons. Because see, the doctors and the nurses, they wouldn't treat the prisoners. Because they wouldn't want to get near them, because there was a stigma about it. Oh, you look at them, you catch it.
Especially then, they didn't know.
They didn't know anything. So he actually died in prison of it. But right up to his he died. You know, I didn't know this until last year. I'm not making a joke about it. But it was really sad. He was going in and treating people that were obviously worse off than him. Then he ended up as one of the patients. And it's, to put it in context, how horrific that was the bass player. Never left that jail.
There's that many stories. We could sit here for 20 hours telling them. I know before you were liberated, you were sent to another 2 prisons.
Aye, that's when it
What
got...
was
the peak,
the second prison, what was that called?
Carabanchel. That is...
What was that like?
That is the most brutal prison in Europe.
Is that right?
Aye. What happened there is, obviously, we've went and done we're recording, hanging on, and that's really annoyed a lot of people when we're la-di-da-di-da. We didn't help ourselves, because when we're in the recording studio, got to record, there was a bit of extra time, and we got to record another song we'll talk about if we've got time. And originally, the musician manager guy had said, can you write a song for this well-known Spanish band? And we were going to let them record it, and the guards were all wanting to make money out of it and all that. So I went in while we get the recording session and recorded it, so they can't record it. So that caused absolute chaos, because it didn't go down well. And the last thing we've done is after the recording session, we got invited out to that Spanish DJ House Sapena's radio station. They gave us permission to go out to that, and I think this is it. I'm waiting to go into the open prison. They told me I'm going in like Monday or Tuesday, you know, it's all sorted. I mean, we've only come out the radio station, we've only come out the recording studio. It's literally 2 days later we're at the radio station, so this is like a daily occurrence. This is great. Out drinking beer and all that. And the next thing, a guard comes in the siesta period, because all your transfers get done then. The idea being is that the day while you're on the party, you can see your mate and get that 20 quid you owe him and all that, you know. When you're locked up, they do it during siesta, and the guy's like, you're going to Carabanchel, and I'm like, that's like the bogey, man. That's like Alcatraz.
It's even the name.
It's like the name strikes terror, and these are hardened criminals who start crying. You go, I'm not going to, you know what I mean? It's the only one place they can send you. No, it's maximum security. There only is one. You know what I mean? And everybody's the same. It's no.
So see when you were going up to that prison, was it the same setup in the van, or could you see?
I got taken.
See yourself going in.
Was just to annoy it for about 5 or 6 days. They took me like every morning. I'd be leaving a prison. I might leave Glasgow, right, and I'm going to London prison. But I'd leave Glasgow in the morning, end up in Aberdeen just after they'd done the dinner. So I'm not getting my dinner. And I'd leave before breakfast. And then he'd take me to Plymouth. Right? Then he'd take me back to Manchester. Then he'd take me to Edinburgh. You know, I'm doing this tour just to... I've annoyed the wrong person, you know, and they're getting their own back. I did 5 or 6 days, you know, basically some days it'd be a van, other days it'd be a bus, other days it'd be a bus and there was other people in it, you know, but there's no rhyme or reason. And I've been having my own cell and my guitar and all that, and my better food and all that.
Party's over?
Party's well and truly over.
So assume you arrived in that Notorious prison. What was that like? What was your experience?
That was extremely, extremely dangerous. It's another one, like that I was saying, you know, my life is, I'm lucky to be here.
Say the name again.
Carabanchel.
Carabanchel?
Yeah, it's maximum security. It's where Narcos took place, the
Right.
TV series Narcos.
Did you meet any serious people in there?
They were all in there, all the Cali, the Medellin cartel and that were all in there.
The Cali cartel in there?
Cali cartel we knew from Murcia.
Did you befriend any of them?
I'd after fighting for years to have my own cell, I have to go and annoy. That's one of the things I didn't help myself with. Joel, the French guy, he's got mates, you know, how he's
He helped
well
you
up.
out there?
Aye, and he's like said, can you take this guy in your cell and look after him? Because he couldn't have MD in his cell. He's not got the benefits I've got. Because I was songwriting, I could have a cell of my own, right? And we've just fought to get that. And then there's this wee guy, he's in the Medellin, the Cali cartel accountant. And he's come down, will you have him in your cell? And that was mental. We're sitting there with caviar and fine wine and all that in the cell and all that, you know, for every day. But he's that powerful.
He's got all the pull.
He's got all the pull.
corruption. He's paying off all the
the
guards.
ham and the cheese and the fruit and all that.
And you're in there with him.
Aye, and the thing was, there's about half of the galleries in there. There's about 20 people in your room every
Oh, that's the
lockdown.
story when the whiskey and all that
Aye.
came, and even the guards were sitting drinking
Aye, the
with you.
guards are sitting there now having this, you know, it's top tier.
Madness. How long were you in that prison?
In Carabanchel, it was less than a year. Now, that was brutal. One of the things that happened there, if you're wanting, you know, crazy stuff, they've got a thing. I used to tell my mates, and then I stopped telling them about it for 30 years because it's so crazy. But there's a book that MD's looking for by Christopher Chance called Last Man in Carabanchel. Now, he went in 10 years after me, and that was it, having undergone 3 reforms. So, and people looked at his as like brutal. And I used to talk to people about this holding cell with 20 people in it. You know, he'd over you up, they would say in Glasgow, he sort you out. If you've annoyed somebody, they put you in there. And it's just a lottery if you come out. And if you do come out, you're not the same as you went. And you might be missing a few arms or legs, right? And somebody had it in for me, but there is somebody looking after me. And I'm no Bruce Lee, I'm no in like that, right? But somebody looked after me, and I told you about this, so it's worth saying. You said that I should say it. I'm getting put in this cell, and there's like, it's either 5 beds, 4 high, or 4 beds, 5 high. There's 20 people in it, so 19 in me. And you've got sheets hanging down, so you get your bit of privacy, and this is just the scum of the earth. And they're getting found out afterwards. They get like told somebody's coming in, you know, and he's got a bit of money, he's got that, so they're just going to attack you.
Fresh meat,
basically. And all I remember is getting in there, and I seen somebody behind the door. He was going to jump me when they closed the door, and just fight or flight or whatever. I didn't punch him, I didn't kick MD. I just grabbed this guy, just thinking to get him in front of me because I don't want him behind me. And it's metal frame beds. Now, I had nightmares about this for a long time. This guy has hit the corner of the metal bed, you know, the don't know what, 3rd floor or 2nd floor, right on the corner, right in his eye socket. And that's just went. Now, all these other 18 have suddenly had a rethink, you know, just a split second, you know. And I don't know that guy, what happened to that guy. But luckily, that made them think. And just at that point, there's a few of the European guys heard there was a new guy, and they've ran up and what the hell's going on here, and dragged me out. And then the guards are arrived, going, what are you doing in there? You're not meant to be in there. You're meant to be in that block. You know, one of the guards has faked the papers or something to get he's got a mate in Murcia that said, go and sort him out. I'm not meant to be in there. I'm meant to be, you know, somewhere else. But, you know, that split second, had it not went that way, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
How horrific do you remember that being, that scene? Did it really bad?
To be honest, Like, and I'm not doing this to sound nice, this is the truth, we are taking the truth. I had nightmares not about what was happening to me, I worried about what that happened to that guy. Seriously, that's crazy. He was going to eat me alive, you know what I mean? But I'm worried, did I hurt that guy?
He's lost his eye anyway.
I don't know, you know what I mean? But the thing is, in any other prison, that would be, you'd be up in charges and all. This is what we're saying to Cam on the camera at the start about the desensitising things. This was like, they were still under like martial law and everything, machine gun towers and all, and there's fights and stabbings and going. It's a hub and there's like 3 floors and the nets over it, but the nets aren't even there in half of the places. And I'm not joking about this, you know, I'm not saying it happened every day, but it happened fairly frequently. You'd be sitting at your table, playing a game of chess, and this body would come down and smack on the floor. You're like that. And you're not shouting at him, obviously. You're saying, go on and watch what you're doing, we're playing here. And the thing is, that's a person. That's somebody's brother, son.
Dead.
Don't know, you don't care. The guards have seen it. And they're having their coffee, and the boy, the trustee, they shout him or message, press the button, he's away getting their coffee. So 15 minutes later, they might come and check if he's alive. There's no like, me on here, there's not even an alarm. Oh no, he's dead. You sure? Hold on. Call over the doctors half an hour later. He's dead. Maybe because it's dinner and they're going to do a count, then somebody will get told to take him away because they've got to stand there to do the count. And that's not one instance. MD that's been there will back me up. There's a couple of guys that from Glasgow that did in the same prison because they were over there and they get put in it for a few days. But around about a few years after that, when it wasn't bad, I don't think. But they were in Madrid, you know, and they get put there for a couple of days while they get sent somewhere else, you know what I mean? And they were like at places, and they've done places here, and they're going, and they didn't, I don't think they even into the prison. They were just in the holding cells, you know what I mean? Or they heard about it. They're going, we heard about that thing, you know what I mean? Oh, that's mental.
It's the way you described it, you know, when you mentioned the word Alcatraz, that's when you know.
Aye.
If you're comparing it to that, 'cause that's one of the most notorious prisons.
Well, Carabanchel, you can go on and Google it. The Spanish newspaper El País, which is the Observer, ran a feature on it because it's the background to Narcos and Farina, the 2 documentaries about the Colombian drug trade.
Right.
Because if you think about it, there was no Colombians didn't export cocaine to Europe in the 1980s. What happened was their top guys get put in Carabanchel at the same time. And they met up with pirates and that from Galicia. Galicia is the north of Spain, and they've always been outside the, you know, autonomous region, or tried to be. And they were pirates for 500 years. They did, you know, slavery and whatever was after slavery, you know, whatever imports, you know, right up all the way through. So you've got all these South Americans that, why would they want to transport all the way to Europe? And it's costing them money. We can fly up to Florida and it's warmer, you know what I mean? But they've met there, and one side has met the other in Carabanchel. And there's a whole documentary. That's how Narcos starts. That's set. The brutal scenes you say at the start of Narcos.
Oh, like cocaine cowboys and stuff like that.
Aye, that's set in Carabanchel prison.
That's crazy.
And you can't make that up. That's what it was. And eventually, you know, I was there less than a year because obviously, despite myself, I was getting near the end of my sentence.
And then you were moved to
and
another prison?
Get moved to
up
the
north.
Oldest prison in Spain, just in the winter, in January or something like that, 92, and I got extradited in the Easter in that year. And what happened is, they finally gave me open prison, because they've got no choice. They're finally having to give me 3rd grade. They give me open prison in Santander. If you look at a map of Europe, you've got the top left-hand corner of Spain. That's Santander. You can't get any further north, you can't get any further west. And it's on like a peninsula, it's like a cape or whatever you call it. So you've got the white cliffs of Dover all around 3 sides. There's not even any fences. This is the North Sea. There's no mountains, there's nothing, it's flat.
There's nowhere to go, but...
There's nowhere to go, and the wind is howling. It's that Atlantic thing coming off, you know. I mean, you're not sunbathing up there, tell me that, you know. In this prison, it was a Napoleonic fort, or it was used during the Napoleonic Wars. So it's at least, I don't know my era, is at least 1700 or something like that, that was built. The walls are about 8 foot thick, but it's only one wall. They've got one wall on this side, and that's all water.
Right.
And these walls are like, and the buildings, like the cells are like 8 foot thick. So it doesn't matter what time of year, that's bloody freezing, and it's damp, and it's horrible and all that. And they're like, you can go out. Where do you go to? You go out to get a job. And there was one time I got like a permiso, a 7-day license thing to go out. I got to go to this hippie commune. It was like a priest guy, you know what I mean? You signed for anything, you get out for 8 days. In the middle of nowhere. It's like getting, I don't know, it's getting sent to the Stornoway or something like that, you know what I mean?
What were you getting up to?
Nothing. It's full of young lasses that are all training to be nuns. And they were having none of it. You know, I'm thinking I'm a rock star, or the groupies and that, you know.
No, there's none of that.
I'm locked. I was more locked up there than I was in the prison, you know what I mean? They weren't letting me anywhere near them. And that was the end of it. And that's where I get released from.
I was going to ask you about when you were liberated.
And we were talking about that. They just like to annoy me.
So I know when you were liberated and you've got the documents.
I never thought about this until last year, because I get deported at the end of it.
Can you show me over this first one? And you can talk us through it.
Aye. Basically, I'd never thought about being deported because I wasn't actually deported on my sentence, which you normally do. Because if you think about it, if I was getting deported, why were we arranging recording contracts and tours and apartments for me? I'd never thought about it for 30 years, because the minute I get released, I never had a thought for the last 30 years about prison, jail, bans, nothing. That letter there is, I have to show it to people, because you think, you know, you're making it up. You know, this is like 2 weeks before my release. The Director General of the Spanish Security Service, which is the equivalent of MI5, is he personally, not the head of chief or the clerk or works, or the Director General of MI5 in Spain has personally asked that I be extradited. And there's the reasons on it are that I'm considered a threat to Spain's international relations with other countries, a threat to Spain's relations with foreign powers, clear and present danger, relations with even non-friendly countries. I am suspected of doing activities that are so dangerous to Spain, I have to instantly leave the country, as I pose a serious threat to Spain's not only relations with other countries, but to its internal security. I'm a 20-year-old boy for Barhead or Borhead. You know what I mean? And I've got 48 hours to leave the country, or I'm getting a 10-year on top of it.
So what's this other document you've got?
And that's one of the ones we just found out, and we don't know where that's come up. I'm in the north of Spain, day and time.
Can I see that other one?
Aye. And for some reason, they've made a passport out for me that's valid between December and January of 1991. And it's for exiting for Alicante. Right? I left in 1992 for Malaga Airport. And I was nowhere near there. And that's not my signature on that document.
So it's a false document?
It's a false document. Because Spanish, if you see it there, you'll do close-ups later, Spanish always have 3 names, right? You know, Juan Miguel Sanchez, because you are called Juan, your mum's Miguel, and your dad's Sanchez, and always did it. So my name everywhere is Allan McCarthy. But for some reason on the passport, you know how you got your middle name and all that on the passport, they've got Allan John McCarthy. You know what I mean? You know, do you have any middle names? And you always do in your passport or that, you know what I mean, the birth certificate. But I don't go about signing things Allan John McCarthy. Not in my million years.
Is that what that's signed?
Signed up. Look. Allan John McCarthy.
Unbelievable, isn't it?
And that's signed 500 miles away from where I'm in prison. So what was that being used for? You know what I mean? Don't know.
It's such an incredible story, right? But this is almost 30 years ago, or it is 30 years ago this happened. And then there's another incredible part of the story, because they've contacted you now, and the prison, the governor of the very first prison you were in, where the band was formed, has asked you to go back
and play a concert
for the cons of today
in September.
And have you agreed?
Going to do that. But the reason the story is taken, because people probably haven't heard this before, and it's been in some newspapers and things. I've got a bit of mileage. It's been on a couple of radio, playing the old songs. But you might not know how crazy it got. For 30 years, I never did any music. I always had an advertising thing. I did proper business and all that. I get deported and obviously went back, and I got handed my nephew was a baby at the time. He was 6 months old, and so I helped with him and all that, and just clean. About 6 years ago, I went back to Spain. I went over with a really good friend, and she wanted to go to Murcia. Of all the places in Spain to pick, she goes to Murcia. She didn't know that I'd been involved in that.
The experience you've got there.
But she used to live over there, and she knew people there, and Murcia has, over 30 years, become quite touristy, and it's a really nice place to stay, golf resorts and that. So I'm living over there. I'm still not told them that this. Obviously I've got friends that very few friends know. There's about 2 guys, and I told you who they were, the guy in Edinburgh and the guy in Glasgow, very close, knew about my previous experiences, and they were like, aye, so you were. They thought I'd been on too many drugs or that, and if they don't believe me, that's good mates. I'm not going to tell it at parties, to make myself look big. And over in Spain on these golf resorts, everybody reinvents themselves, nobody's been a plumber. They were all gangsters, or they were rock stars, or, if you were a hairdresser, you're an ex-model. You know what I mean? You're not just, what's wrong with being a hairdresser? What's wrong with being a plumber? No, I was I did this, I can't tell you, but, remember the craze? I used to run about with them. Now, that's 2 boys that are 20-year-old from Glasgow that are telling me they used to run about with the craze, and you're going, wait a minute, I thought they died 20 years ago, and you're 20-year-old, how can you run? So, nobody takes anything seriously. So, I never told anybody about that. Why? It's like, I used to laugh at the door when people come up to the door and I'm at the door. Do you know who I am? No. Do you know who my dad is? No. Are we going, is this, one of these genealogy programs or something? I need to know who you're from. No, you're not getting in still, So I never told them that. And all that happened was, it's come up to Christmas one year, and somebody that was very close to me said, I've never heard this music of yours. Let's go and get it. I'm like, no. Because I'm thinking, the big ego and the low self-esteem, it'll be crap, because I've not heard it for 30 years. I can talk about it and pretend it was good, and I don't need to back it up. So we've went along to the recording studio, which has moved since then. Lots of things have changed. The guy, Pepe Moreno, has, in 30 years, become a very successful producer. He's in a big villa with guard dogs and that outside it, and he's got the controlled access and pressed on the button. I'm not really wanting to do this. I can say I tried, you know what I mean? And I don't really need to know how good or bad I am, but my conscience is clear and pressing the button. Who is it? And it's fluent Spanish. I'm just here. We recorded here about 30 years ago, and I was just wondering any chance you might have the tapes, but I can understand that you don't. I'm already answering for him.
You're wanting to get away.
I'm wanting to get away, and she's like, you're right. And I'm like, aye, right. He said, no. 30 years ago, everything was on the old 1/4-inch reel-to-reel tapes. So, all scrubbed, unless you were in the charts or, it was my own recordings or my mates. Gone. Told you. I just translated that and said, aye, right, see, right, let's go. And just the voice, who was it anyway? And I went, you remember, you probably don't remember, I was in a wee daft band in the prison. Oh, right, and you hear crash, bang, wallop, bang, guard dog's gone, and the carport opens up because that's the nearest one, and he's out there, he's got one flip-flop on, hair up to there, the guard dogs are running out in the street, and this guy's like, dancing with me in the street and all that, and I'm like, and this girl was like,
that's a scene.
And she's going, what the hell's going on there? So, about a week later, I got the tapes. And that's like Christmas 2 years ago or whatever. And I've just got the tapes. I played them to that guy I was saying to you in Glasgow. My mate said, see that? And now I'm in Spain. I'm stuck in Spain. I can't get back because COVID and that's on and that. And he's like, that's not really you though. And I'm like, where have I got today? You know what I mean? It doesn't sound like you, it's too good. And I'm like, because it's not come out in the papers yet.
I know, but unbeknown to you, it had been getting played in Spain for 30 years.
This guy just come here. I got interviewed by one of the what happened is about that was November, just after my birthday. This lassie's like, why don't you play some of the tapes? Now, in between this, somebody's told us that during COVID, this famous DJ is celebrating his 30th anniversary of his show. It's like the Jim King show. It's music of the contraband. This guy is the bad boy of rock, but he's like a combination of John Peel. He's trained to be non-musicians. He's got a Sunday newspaper column. He's got a TV programme. He's got a radio chat show, and he does about 3 festivals. You know, he's progressed, and he's got me on his show. But I sent out the tape to him, going, again, no wanting really him to moan, and he's not got back to us. And we've suddenly found out that this guy has, for his 30th anniversary, he's done all these articles everywhere, Newsweek, Time, Sun, Daily Record. He's on The One Show, he's on Panorama about his 30th anniversary. You know, it's a big deal. And the one thing he keeps coming back to, what is your favourite memory? I met this guy, Allan McCarthy, and I didn't know anything about this, and he's posting this on Facebook every year, like the anniversary of this and the anniversary of that, playing the songs. And it's what I was saying was, we were thinking about releasing the song, we'll come to that later on. Angel had always been publishing this bit, a quote for this thing, and we didn't know then, that was the very last thing that we did before the band broke up was on his show. And he didn't think nothing of it on the time. He's just saying this quote for a South American poet, the last time I ever seen your face, your eyes, you told this sad story. He's putting that in, not knowing that I'm the next day getting sent, you know, a maximum security, that he'll never see me for 30 years. And he thought I was dead and kept putting the music out. So I've sent his radio station a letter, or I emailed them, you know, like, I'm that guy that he's talking about. No reply. A week goes past. I'm like, that's a bit unusual. He's everywhere. What a bam, you know what I mean? He's melting my name and all. And then the early hours of Monday morning, I've left the bar and that, and it's Sunday night. It's about 2 o'clock in the morning, and it's about a week or two after I've sent this. And of course, all my pals know I've sent it, and they're going, have you heard from that guy yet? You know, it's embarrassing. You know, I'm thinking, because it's everywhere in Spain, but he's not answering mine. I get this messenger call. Will you accept this call from XYZ1? You know, the name doesn't resemble who it is. And I'm like, who is it? There's this guy crying on the phone. And it's Angel Cepena, top DJ. He's greeting on the phone. I thought you were dead. And we've talked like for about 3 hours, and he's in tears, and I'm like keeping myself awake as I was a bad boy then. And he's just like, you've got to come in the morning. Now, I'm telling the truth about everything, you know, and it's not to bum myself up, and it's hopefully MD listening to this will see that now me and Jim were out for a spa day and we're having a coffee and we're talking about no drinking and no taking drugs, and you know what I mean, and that's what I'm trying to promote. But tell us straight how bad I was. It's just letting people know, like, the stupid things I did that could it's no laughing matter, but it's funny because nothing harmless happened. He's invited me the next morning onto his radio show, and we've recorded like a 40-minute thing. Now, I thought this was going to get edited and all that, you know, because he just starts talking about everything. That's went on that night live, 40 minutes without a break. There's a song at the start, a song at the end, and of course he can't help himself. Before we're queuing up, all I hear is Jailhouse Rock, and I'm like, oh no, 35 years later, and I got hit with this. But that's recorded, and I didn't know that went out without a break. Now, he might have a special on David Bowie, which he did about the week after, because Bowie passed away. But they have adverts and all that, you know what I mean, commercial break and the song. It's the rock, it's like Friday rock show, 40 minutes, just us talking. This guy who's never heard of for 35 years. So by the time we get set up and all that and we recorded it, it's about lunchtime as we're going out, and Spain likes the big lunch. They have their liquid lunch and everybody listens to the radio and all that. There's the woman has just stopped us at the desk and do you mind just staying the two of yous talking? You know what I mean? She's heard that, and we're going on live radio. Now, there's a boy that's ran me in to the studio. He's actually was a DJ in his own country back. Oh no, so don't drop him in it. He was a DJ before he came to Spain, and he's in the booth and he's loving it, looking at all the proper DJ stuff, you know, and he's telling us after it, because we're not seeing it, it was went to 100,000, then it's 200,000, then it's 500,000, because all the other radio stations are picking up on it. We're oblivious to it. Now, this is the bit that is embarrassing, but it's the truth, you know, glamorising it. But of course, I've come out to one recording studio and I'm an addict, so I'm wanting to run to the toilet. I've come out of the toilet, and even though it's on the radio, they've suddenly think this is a brilliant story, so they're wanting stuff to post on Facebook. So we've got cameramen, we've got stills photographers, we've got that. And I'm talking for 15 minutes live on the telly, and there's stuff coming out my nose, and they must have thought, he's real rock. No, that's Keith Richards you've got in there, you know what I mean?
You're joking.
And it's just on the table. And this guy is like going like that to me behind me, and the sound prophet keeps going like that. What?
That's what I'm saying. A story like that, and then the chaos.
Chaos has come out, and we've come out for that and thought that's amazing, you know. And I'll be honest, our egos are like, we're on the radio. We went back to the golf resort, and this is a 5-star golf resort of the millionaires, and we're like walking down. Nobody's jumping out and asking for autographs.
There's no buses with open tops.
Aye, there's nobody there because, it's on Spanish radio. It's all English people. You don't listen to Spanish radio. They haven't a clue what's going on, right? And all the Spaniards that are on there are working, so they're not listening to the radio. So that was a bit of deflation.
You tapped into something there, obviously, because you've got that Rockstar feeling, right? And that's the powders falling out your nose and that. But we spoke about it, you're also in recovery.
Aye, I've been totally clean for about 8 months.
Before we finish up in this episode, if you can send out a final message to the audience.
What happened is, to briefly give you a timeline what happened next, that story got published about a week later, the whole thing, and it went in 23 million newspapers. It's quite a lot. It then went on Rock FM, you know, and all the Spanish media and all the things, and it took arms and legs, and obviously start thinking you're a rock star, you know what I mean? And just Christmas before last, I had been sober, but I wasn't doing anything properly. I was still in Egypt, acting like a bam. So I'm not drinking, so I'm better than you lot, you know that. And replaced one thing for another further down the line with another substance.
But that's a typical thing for anybody.
And like anything else, like any addicts, alcoholics, you can't do things like any other normal people. Got to do it to excess. So I got in such a state up until May last year that I'm not going to make it sound better than it is, but I was doing more than any normal person would even think possible. I'm getting it for free because everybody knows me, and I was like, all right, you know, and I didn't even leave the house. I had no pleasure at all. I'm doing interviews and that. I'm sitting in maybe at the wee recording studio in the house. My pals are coming in, but they're not really my pals. They're just coming up to get free gear and all the drink and all that, you know what I mean? And then my health got so bad, a good friend had seen the state of me and said, no, you're coming back to the UK. And I couldn't even fly for 2 weeks. I had to get checked into hospital. I took my first drink in 2 years because I couldn't get in for drugs. So I actually took only a couple of drinks, you know what I mean? It wasn't like a mad bender. But because I had alcohol in my system, they could admit me to the hospital, give me the whatever it is degree, and that was like the 8th of May last year. And touch wood, I've no had touched any substance since. But it's the reality. It was like, I came back then, and I went back off the 5-star resort. I was living in a council house, a rented flat in Barhead, no lighting, no gas up until recently. You know what I mean? And for all the young kids that think it's the glamour with the dogs, look, all the guys in that band probably did drugs. At that point in Spain, there was people getting a year-long sentence for, drink driving or stealing a pint of milk. that didn't go out after the year or two sentence. And that wasn't because they get stabbed. That was because they tried HIV or abscess, not even just HIV, it's all the other stuff, you know, the abscesses and the blood infections, because they're sharing needles and they're not doing things properly. Rats and all that about, you know, so it's like kids will say, but we do it cleanly, you know that. You might not get AIDS, but you get an abscess or you have no veins left or whatever. You don't know what you're taking, all that spice stuff and all that, you know. Like, get a grip. And, you know what I mean? And the whole crime thing, everybody's got this thing where you come out and you're a made man in the mafia and you get your wages paid and your wife gets the car and all that and you get meet. You know, the foot soldier nice. Films when you get met with the model at the Rolls Royce. I get let out in Santander jail, right? In the middle of nowhere. And they let me out at 9 o'clock in the morning, so I had 3 days, 72 hours to get down to Malaga. And they let me out, so I had to spend my opening night, and I'm under curfew, I had to spend, I was in Bilbao or something, and then the next night in Madrid, and then ended up, finally got to Malaga. Now they've let me go about 1,000 miles, it must be, for Santander, right or down. On the trains, buses, nobody's touched me. Funny bit you'll end up with, I goes to Malaga Airport, shows me I've got a bit of paper that's just my train ticket and a photograph. That's why I know I didn't have a passport. And I've went there, and all of a sudden, about 6 guards have all come out. You know, the machine guns and that, into an office. For once they didn't hit me, they took everything off me, all money and fags and all that. And I'm sitting, I've missed the plane that I'm meant to be on. My mum had to book a holiday so I could have the flight back, because you didn't have charter flights in those days. So she's booked the cheapest package holiday somewhere on the Costa del Sol, so I'm flying back on the Monday or Saturday for Malaga Airport. And the flights just went away, and I'm like, ah. And then they've taken me out, and I've got the ankles, the waist, with the 2 guards either side. They've taken me out. Now, I'm not really seeing a lot. It's sunlight, and they don't get glasses, and I couldn't tell you which plane it was they're in. But we're going up either that way, sideways, or that way. They get the guard at the front, you know, and you've got to go up like a conga, because you can't go up 3 abreast up the airport steps. Now, that flight's apparently been held back for a wee bit, so the people are not very pleased.
You're doing the conga.
And the pilot's coming out with his clipboard and all that, signing for it and all that. And these people are going, like, and they're seeing the machine guns and all that, and they're like, ah. Normally you get the slow hand clap or, hey, hurry up, man, kill him. These people are like that. So we had to sit down at the same time. It's like a choreograph, because you can't sit down one at a time. And I'm in the middle seat in the 3 first class right at the front. And I've not got a pot to pee in. All my money's been taken. I'm like, I've been in that maybe a couple of hours and it's hot and all that. And the wee hostess comes up. And she's like, really hanging me, do you want a coffee? And all that stuff. Love one. She's a hard day. And I went, you don't know the half of it. Like, and she's went like, aye, all right. She says, oh, but it's, did you know, see, this is British Airways. She says, you're in first class, it's complimentary. There is a God, you know what I mean?
Again.
I'm like, large Jack, keep them coming. So I'm no pain. And the crazy situation is, like, I actually arrived, I'm not bumming up British Airways, but because that was whatever flight, they get a better landing spot or something like that. So although the flight I was meant to be on had already left, and I'm 20 minutes later or whatever on a different flight, it actually arrived, or it got to the, you know, the boarding gate before the one I was supposed to be on. And I told my mum and my dad not to be there and all that, because I'll phone you when I get, because I thought I'll be hours and days, you know, getting strip search and all that stuff. Because I've only got this wee bit of paper. It's a bit of paper saying, get out and don't come back. With, you know, the Spanish stamp on it. And that's all I've got. No flight tickets, no nothing, no anything. And I'm going through, and if you've ever been through Glasgow Airport, you've got the no declare thing and you've got the booths. And I've just shown it to one guy and I thought, all right, he's just checking the first thing. Then I'll go through security and the boarding thing. But because I've got no luggage, the gates have just opened. And I've just realised that's me actually, you know, at the concourse with W.H. Smiths and all that. And my mum and dad and my wee sister, and I can't remember who had the Wayne, but they've handed me this wee boy, he's 6 months old. And I'm like, do you know what I mean?
Must have been a mad feeling.
Incredible, you know what I mean? It just totally...
A very inspiring story.
Aye.
Right, but again, if you've got a wee message for the young team, not to glamorise anything.
See any of the gangster stuff, look, that is like, your mates don't stand beside you. I came out of that jail and nobody, the whole time I was there, wanted to know anything to do with me. It was brutal. The stuff that you see, you know, the flash cars and that, right? It was somebody said to me, like, see if you had earned £1 million and you got a year sentence and you worked out what you would earn in McDonald's for that year, because remember, you're working 24 hours a day. You can't say, well, I want a day off or I want out, and work out how much you get paid by the hour. If you take that £1 million divided by 365 days by 24 hours, you're on less than you'd earn in McDonald's.
That's madness.
You know what I mean? And, you know, you say, I am all right. I'll sit and play my computer games and all that, you know, and like they all get now. Just, like, see the other week, I used to always think I'd be great, you know, sitting in the house, you know, because I've done all that time and COVID didn't bother me because I had a pool and all that. See the other weekend when it was snowing, remember the Canute Effort? No snowing, with the thunder.
The
storm. I was climbing the walls there Friday because they told me I couldn't get out.
That was my birthday that day.
Was it? Keep you out of mischief, innit?
I still went out.
Aye. But you know what I mean? That's the reality of it, because until somebody tells you cannot do something and say, I'll be all right, and everybody's like gallus and all. I don't care whether it's a prison or young offenders, and young offenders more dangerous, apparently, the prison, because they've got something to prove.
That's right.
The older guys have got something to lose. The young offenders are like me. I was just young and stupid. I didn't care the consequences. And it doesn't matter whether it's any kind of prison, you can have all the luxuries you want. When somebody closes that door at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock at night and tells you you're not getting out, you know, all the big tough guys, you know, all these guys that they look up to, but they were greeting for their mammy at some point.
Definitely, I've spoken to many people.
And they're all... And
it's like they say, they're looking out the window and it's like, if only I could walk down the street.
I used to say these things, I'd go out running every day. A day occasionally, but you know what I mean? It was just the thought of it. I might go out in the sunshine, I might go down the beach. Okay, see, when you get it, you don't go down the beach. It's like, people go, oh, you must have got a great tan. We came back the first year we were living in Spain, I had to go for a sunbed. Because you didn't go out in the sun, because you can do it every day. How many people here have been at the Kelvin Hall or the Borough Collection? Well, day it tomorrow.
Or the great
You
scenery.
tell you can't go out the house tomorrow, you'll be wanting to go out. And as for the money and the glamour and all these people that are talking about I've never done it, they're wannabes.
So it's that old saying, isn't it? It's like, you don't know what you've got till it's gone. But
and with the drugs thing, you know what I mean? I wish I'd got with the programme. You know what it's like.
You're looking really well now and you're really healthy and you're sending out a positive message. But
it's like, just stay clean. And, you know what I mean? I'm not saying stay out of trouble, but you know what I mean? It's not for me to give you guidance because I can't guide myself. But
a lot of people...
if you learn anything from me, from my experience, and people say, well, maybe that's not a good idea. Hopefully that's the message, mate.
But like I said, what a fascinating, inspirational story. I know we're going to do some work again together very soon.
Aye.
And I want to thank you so much for coming on.
Aye, and there's Brian's book there.
We'll plug
Brian
it
Anderson.
again.
Brian Anderson. I just
Brian
seen that
Anderson.
Fate. Aye.
Faces too.
And hopefully we'll be collaborating with him soon.
Very well.
With maybe music and videos and competitions and things like that.
There's loads of stuff happening there.
Aye, we've got it all
but
planned.
like I said, thanks very much for coming
on.
It's
been brilliant, Jim.
And shake my hand.
Thank you again.
And
That's been fantastic.
I'll see you again very soon, my friend. Thank you.
Thanks.